Hey everyone, it's Glitchy here, and today we're going to be covering a topic I've only lightly touched on before, being the current state of Call of Duty. I want to start out by saying that I'm not going to try and be overly negative in this video, despite how easy it really can be when looking at a topic like this. It's easy to look at a lot of the decisions Activision as well as the developers have made and simply point fingers and say, that's bad or that's stupid. And as much as that may be true, I want to look at how the community overall has reacted to specific changes during the modern COD era, as well as what seems to be happening nowadays with Call of Duty on a much more constant basis. So, whether you're someone who is currently playing Black Ops 7, or in my case, someone who has taken a break from the franchise, I hope you stick with me as I give my insight on what's been going on. And if you like what you see, maybe leave a like and subscribe down below. So, let's get into it. So, where did we get started with a lot of the issues we have today in COD? Most people would point you in the direction of Modern Warfare 2019, but I believe all of the issues really started with Infinite Warfare, where a clear message was sent to not only Activision but Infinity Ward, which would become an extremely important player in the development of what Call of Duty is today. Infinite Warfare, before it was even released, became the most disliked video on YouTube at the time, which was a product of the community basically being done with futuristic games, since we had so many forms of advanced movement that made COD not feel like COD anymore. The way this was solved was they bundled Modern Warfare Remastered into buying the deluxe version of Infinite Warfare, so then both audiences could be happy during that year, but it also caused extreme conflict on the inside since now the games were competing with each other. And Modern Warfare Remastered, what was basically a 9-year-old game at the time, beat something brand new. This, as well as Battlefield 1 coming out in the same year, forced COD back into the boots on the ground market where they released World War II, and then we were almost back to business as usual. But in the shadows, Modern Warfare 2019 was brewing. All of the criticism that Infinity Ward had gotten for Infinite Warfare was coming into effect. This would be a reinvention of the COD franchise, but it wasn't their turn yet in the development cycle, as Treyarch would still have to set the stage for the next era of COD by producing one of the most strange Call of Duties at the time. Grapple hook abilities as well as heroes, and forcing players to use stims to heal at all, as well as clunky menus and still plenty of microtransactions, introducing something which we'll talk about later, which is the horrendously expensive weapon blueprints. But there was one large part of Black Ops 4 that would become a much larger problem going forward, which was Blackout. Blackout itself wasn't an issue. It was actually a very unique battle royale at the time and was easily one of the best bonus modes included inside of a COD game, with plenty of side activities to do as well as characters to unlock instead of purchasing, forcing you to explore certain spots around the map and having the skill to win the games so you could unlock them. It was easily one of the most consumer-friendly battle royales, which it only had the liberty to do since it was paid access for its entire lifetime. Remember that fact for later. And as polarizing as Black Ops 4 was, most people, including myself, thought it was a fine entry in the series and definitely felt like it was moving in the right direction for the franchise. But we weren't really ready for the next game to be announced and completely take the community by storm with Modern Warfare 2019. The hard-hitting visuals, the dark tone, the realism, the return to classic characters like Captain Price. Everyone who laid their eyes on it was absolutely in love. But what we didn't know was the effect the game would have on the rest of the series, as well as how long we would feel like we'd be stuck with it due to certain world events. So, the game released, and a lot of fucking people were playing the game. The nostalgia bait caught a lot of fish, and the gameplay captivated even more. But there was anything but a silent minority that pointed out huge issues with the game. Modern Warfare 2019 was extremely slow unless you could master the game's movement tech, as well as removing the minimap and perks like Dead Silence, besides as a field upgrade, and even the minimap would have to return later in an update in a very limited capacity, which I'm not gonna lie, I really did not play Modern Warfare 2019 a whole lot, so I can't go deeply into my thoughts on how it felt, and I didn't even give Activision any money when it went on sale recently. But the more important part of this yearly release of COD was the eventual release of Warzone, which would become a festering cesspool of issues that would spread throughout the franchise for the rest of time. And Warzone was, to say at the very least, extremely popular. But the problem is Activision didn't see exactly why it was so popular. It came out at the literal perfect time in the world at the beginning of 2020. So while everyone was stuck inside, they weren't making any money. So a free-to-play battle royale which belonged to one of the largest franchises in video game history, yeah, it was going to be a fucking hit regardless. So what other lucrative issues spawned out of Modern Warfare and Warzone that we're still dealing with today? Well, what we didn't know at the time was that Infinity Ward had pushed really hard to create a system that would sort players based on skill into other lobbies with similarly skilled players. Now, I'm sure you've heard of this system before, especially from me, being called a skill-based matchmaking, or SBMM for short. There were tests that went on, and it was almost described as a conspiracy at the time, where most people were simply told they needed to get better, despite being the better players in the game. The cycle of SBMM goes like this. Play one game where you stomp the enemy team, get placed into extremely sweaty lobbies for a few matches, then get sent back down to shitty lobbies, and then you repeat. It became extremely worn out, and is still an issue in current day COD, where Activision has now been apparently lying about removing SBMM from specific playlists in Black Ops 7, after so long of saying it was never in any of the games at all. But one of the other real issues with Call of Duty nowadays is the extremely aggressive monetization. And we kind of touched on this a little bit in my live service video, which if you haven't yet, go give that a watch as it's one of my better videos on the channel. So I'm not going to touch on the basic idea of the Battle Pass as a concept, but there are specific things that COD does compared to games like Fortnite or Marvel Rivals that are especially egregious. COD introduced the Black Cell system in Modern Warfare 2, and this serves as the higher tier to the normal Battle Pass. Fortnite does the same kind of thing, but it only gives you levels in the pass, while still having the base price where you start from zero and work your way up, or having the free pass where it'll basically give you nothing. This is the standard across the entire industry for the most part, like in games we've talked about, such as Rivals and Overwatch. COD, though, has a pass that is completely exclusive to the premium price point, which costs about half of the game's fucking entry price and has the exclusive content you can't get except for buying the Black Cell Battle Pass. On top of this, we also have the entire shop, which is constantly rotating items that have been consumed by AI slop. There is not a single item in the game that feels like it was designed by a fucking human being anymore, since Activision, and more importantly, as their new owners, Microsoft, have been pushing AI harder than anyone else in the industry. All of the calling cards, as well as all of the emblems, even down to the prestige icons, are all done by AI at this point, it feels. But for some, this isn't even the worst part of the shop, because around when Black Ops 6 was on its way out, the biggest issue for some was the collaborations that were being released, like Beavis and Butthead, Seth Rogen, Nicki Minaj, Gundam, American Dad. The list goes on and on. And the biggest argument against all of these skins was that they completely ruined the aesthetic of the game and made Call of Duty feel like it was less than a military shooter. Much more like a brain rot shooter like Fortnite has become. And the feedback definitely got to Activision because from what I understand, they have toned back really hard on the collabs for the most part, only allowing collabs to be in the game if they can fit the theme with the game that they're going to be a part of. So that's why they allowed an irradiated zombie man that uses bottle caps as currency into Black Ops 7. They really just don't know how to keep their hands out of the cookie jar, especially when the fucking sales are lower than they've ever been. But that's besides the point. The reason why all of this has even happened compared to how monetization used to be in COD, weapon skins, Snoop Dogg as an announcer in COD Ghosts, or even DLC packs, was because they saw Fortnite's success and moved to their business model. Even with the release of Warzone, it was all basically a response to the explosive success of Fortnite. But with the success of Warzone, it made what has felt like a permanent change to the overall feel of the COD franchise. Some call it the Warzoneification of Call of Duty. And before Warzone came out, each COD felt like it had its own identity, as well as great features as well as flaws. This all came from the cycle of development that COD still undergoes even today. Being Infinity Ward makes a game, then Sledgehammer follows, and then Treyarch goes last. This cycle got broken recently with the release of Black Ops 7 coming out right after the release of Black Ops 6, and we all see how that went for them. So even when we got 3 games coming out in this same era, like Advanced Warfare to Black Ops 3 and even Infinite Warfare, each game would still feel extremely different, even if in the case of BO3 and IW, they had some of the same mechanics. But with everything that has come out after Modern Warfare 2019, everything feels like it has just been a rebuilt version of that same game, with some different visuals and some very minor gameplay tweaks when it came to Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer's releases. At least Treyarch was kind enough to try and make some differences like omni movement and wall jumping in both of their newer games. But no matter what, you can always look at these games and very clearly discern that all of these look exactly the fucking same. I shit you not. If I put you into any of these games without you seeing which game I booted up, besides maybe Vanguard, since it takes place during World War II, you probably would have no clue which game you were playing at the time. There is no different feel anymore. No looking forward to seeing the different art styles, and definitely no more looking forward to how the games will play differently. Because even when the games do feel extremely different, whenever Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer come around, the game will always go back to feeling exactly like Modern Warfare 2019. Like, even for the leaks for Modern Warfare 4 this year, which are basically saying it feels like a better Modern Warfare 2022, the only word that comes to mind at this statement is agony. Warzone hasn't gone through basically any changes besides the maps and the weapons, though, and the biggest change it recently had was the addition of Black Ops Royale, which was supposed to be a blackout callback mode. And apparently it just got removed. And I wouldn't know that for sure since I don't play Black Ops 7. And the last time I actively played Warzone was around when Modern Warfare 2022 came out. And I have a special place in my heart dedicated to disliking Warzone in particular because it basically killed a franchise that I spent a lot of my life just loving to death. I have literally no faith that COD will ever become the franchise I grew up with again, and I'm not trying to be too negative here, so I want to try to actually be somewhat constructive and talk about what I would do if I was in control of all 3 of the main companies that make COD, being Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer, and Treyarch, to try and return to the way that COD used to be, where all the games felt different for the most part, and were actually pretty damn decent besides a few stinkers every now and then. So, for the most part, I have seen a lot of people propose the idea that each studio should be working on their own portion of each Call of Duty game that comes out nowadays. And usually the preferred order is that Infinity Ward works on the campaigns, Sledgehammer works on the multiplayer, and Treyarch works on zombies. So, I'm going to be completely honest. This wouldn't work at all. This sounds like a great idea on paper, but all this would really do is force the entire studio conglomeration to make games and experiences that would never feel different at all, which isn't what I personally feel would help Call of Duty at this point. So obviously we can't simply go back to the way things were, where we bought DLC packs and the largest microtransactions were weapon camos and announcer packs. But we can make an attempt to improve the development cycle for each of the different studios, as well as forcing different experiences to be made instead of sticking to the exact same franchises year after year. So the first step in that would be completely abandoning the old COD IPs. No more COD Black Ops games and no more Modern Warfare games. Before Modern Warfare 2019, we hadn't gotten a specific game in that series since 2011 with the original Modern Warfare 3. And the only one we were getting on a constant rotation was from Treyarch with the Black Ops series, where the last game they made that wasn't a Black Ops game was World at War, and even then it still takes place in the same universe. But with their constant making of these games, they still understood that each of these needed to be a much different experience than the last, so the fans of the franchise wouldn't get bored of the series. Like looking at Black Ops 2 compared to Black Ops 3, the visuals speak for themselves, let alone the gameplay. So we need to get back to these kinds of differences. So my proposed solution is that each studio needs to make their own engine to work with, since all of the games have basically been updating the exact same engine ever since Modern Warfare 2019 released, leading to a much more similar experience. Now, if this proves to be way too difficult, each studio needs to decide on a specific area they want to make Call of Duty games in. It seems like Infinity Ward wants to stay in a much more modern era, so they can stay there, and quite frankly, that's perfectly fine. Sledgehammer seems to have some kind of affinity with making games in an older era of wars like World War II, so I'd say they should be making more games there as well, especially with leaks saying they're apparently working on a Korean War focused Call of Duty. I think they may already be filling that niche. And their maximum jump forward in time should probably be somewhere around the Vietnam War. And now we need to get to Treyarch, with the most controversial era being futuristic. This is where COD gets to be experimental and truly provide a much more unique experience than the rest of the industry. Treyarch has shown an interest much more than the other developers for advanced forms of movement, and this should be expressed much more vigorously. The only reason we got the advanced movement era of COD was because Respawn shocked the industry with Titanfall. So we should put Treyarch into a position where they can be the ones to shock the industry and bring another era of huge change in the shooter space. Also, another aspect of Treyarch that needs to be restricted to only them needs to be zombies. It seems like they're already going to be doing this, but force it so zombies experiences are only exclusive to the Treyarch games. It's going to suck as a Zombies fan to wait 3 years, but hopefully with all the time, they should be able to prosper in the development time frame. So now that we've laid out the groundwork for what each studio needs to do, as well as what each studio will be doing, we need to build back goodwill with the community and let everyone know that the devs, as well as the publisher, are actually listening. They can't get it twisted, and surely they're willing to be a bit more cautious now that COD is on the downtrend compared to it being a guaranteed success every single time. I would say, since they're still saying that they aren't using SBMM anymore, simply make it so the system is not being used at all anymore. It's pretty obvious from everyone's testing that it's still being used inside of Black Ops 7, even inside of the open matchmaking playlist. So if you're going to keep lying now, just make it a truth and don't mention it. When testing inevitably happens, there's going to be a lot of good press if suddenly all the tests are coming back that skill-based matchmaking isn't in the game at all, and that COD is once again friendly to casual players and feels the way that it used to. One of the biggest reasons I initially gave Black Ops 7 a try was because the beta genuinely felt a lot better because of the open matchmaking compared to how it feels in something like Modern Warfare 2022 or Black Ops 6. If you want people to stop calling the game slop as well, Activision needs to stop pushing the devs teams to use AI for things like art as well as map design. Get actual artists to work on things like calling cards as well as emblems and skins. One last portion to make sure that people actually see the difference between Warzone and the new COD games releasing is that you simply rebrand Call of Duty Warzone to now just being Warzone. None of the main devs work on it, it's only Raven and High Moon, as much as I wish both of them would be able to get out of the COD mines forever, but hopefully that would lead to Warzone being able to completely become its own experience and flourish by itself. And hopefully this disconnect will also force the main COD devs to become much more independent, since they won't have the mine studios to fall back on. And we're running on a sink or swim ship at this point, so grab a paddle, get to work. And I don't think Activision would even be against this anyway, since if they did separate Warzone and COD, you can sell microtransactions in both and make way more money as separate games. Now, as much as I said we can improve the seasonal model earlier for each COD game, I don't think there's a whole lot that can be done to fix things besides completely stop making remakes of maps from old COD games. Only doing so if the map hasn't been remade in the last 5 years. with priority falling on maps that have never been remade at all. And this is all a pretty big ask for a company that has basically been dedicated to saving as much money as possible, by the way. So, as much as I hope these are good ideas, these will probably never happen. But I don't want to just hate farm Call of Duty, so may as well try to be constructive and give ideas on how to actually fix the games instead of just saying they suck and move on. So I do think that this is going to wrap things up for this video today. So I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are you still a Call of Duty player, or did you quit because of how the games have been going recently? Let me know down below, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and maybe even subscribe to see more content like this in the future. I'll see you guys when I see you. This is Glitchy, signing off.